Hello and welcome to another episode of Taking It Too Seriously. I'm Amira.
And I'm Awa.
And this week we are doing our very first book review. I say very first. We actually had a book/movie review for the first episode, but whatever. We're doing a solely book review. First solely book review. And it's going to be on a book that I have never read from an author I have read once before and did not super enjoy. And it is Colleen Hoover's Verity.
Yeah. So I've actually never read any Colleen Hoover, so this was my first. But obviously, like, she did her big one. She's been everywhere. I feel like I've heard about so many of her books.
Yeah, because It Ends With Us and all, obviously, the saga and the nonsense that came up with ends on the set of It Ends With Us. And then the new film that came out, which was...
Reminders of Him,
yeah.
Tyreek Withers.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
I never know actors' names. I know their characters.
Not too much on him.
Yeah. So this time we're going to do the book. I believe Verity's about to get a adaptation actually done. I can't remember if it was a film or a movie, but it's going to have, actors' names. That chick from 50 Shades of Grey and Madam
Dakota
Web.
Johnson.
Yeah. She's going to be in it. So she's going to be
the fact that you know the film Madam Web but don't know her name is insane to me.
I never know actors' names. I know their characters in things that I've watched them in. Remember we were watching just recently, what was that show we were watching a little while ago?
True Detective?
Yeah, and I said, oh, that's Hamish Abernathy.
Yeah.
That's not his name.
And it was Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. Anywho's, moving on swiftly. So we're doing Verity by Colleen Hoover. So Verity is a little bit different to what Colleen Hoover normally writes in that it's a suspense thriller, is that what you would call it? Yeah, suspense thriller.
Yeah.
It's not, again, it's not really my vibe in terms of books or in genre, but I would surprisingly say I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
The overall, what's the word for it? The synopsis of the book.
Yeah.
The synopsis of the book is essentially about a author called Lowen Ashley. She is called Lowen Ashley, right?
I can't remember the surname, but her first name was Lowen.
It was definitely Lowen. So Lowen is a struggling author who has written a book that did quite well, but now she has been caring for her mother who passed away in her flat. And she essentially gets asked to come in to finish off a series of books for another author who is far bigger than her, but they do the same sort of genre.
Yeah.
That other author's name is Verity, and the title of the book, and it's essentially how she goes into her house. She reads her autobiography. A bunch of nonsense happens. It gets a little techie in there.
It gets wild.
It gets wild. It's very, very wild. So for you, what were your thoughts when you initially read it, and then
So for me, going in, for context, so like I said, I haven't read any Colleen Hoover's, and I kind of thought that all of her books were essentially romances, but that there was always some kind of either drama or tragedy or so I kind of thought Verity was going to be the same. I thought it was going to be romance with a splash of maybe thriller or suspense. I didn't even look at the blurb when we started reading Verity.
Me either.
So I knew nothing going in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went into it thinking that it was going to be a romance, and whilst there is a romance, I don't know that I'm rooting. Actually, I know that I'm not rooting for them.
Tricky.
And the whole time, okay, we'll get into the details later, but kind of overall, I would say I actually had a very enjoyable reading experience.
I would say the same.
I read it in one sitting at the arse crack of dawn. It was, I needed to get through it.
I would definitely say when I started reading the book, because again, what I'm familiar with Colleen Hoover is It Ends With Us. I did not enjoy It Ends With Us. It Ends With Us was recommended to me, and it was very much recommended to me in that it's a dark romance. I did not like it. So obviously after, people talked about, actually it's not a dark romance, yada, 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 but this is not about It Ends With Us. So I had this image of what Colleen Hoover writes. So I was going into it thinking it's not going to be the best book. But that initial starting scene, it grabbed me. So in the very beginning of the book, you have her coming out of her house for the first time in a few weeks.
Her being Lowen, not Verity.
Her being Lowen, the main character. She's got the, you know, her background thoughts in that, okay, my mum just passed away, I've not left my house, but I need a job and I need to go to this meeting with my publisher, yada, yada, yada. And then a guy who's crossing the street in New York City gets hit by a truck, and it describes essentially, very in vivid detail, him being run over by the head, and all the blood splatter and whatnot, and I was like, oh, that was a lot.
I skimmed that part. I was like, I get the vibe he's died.
Yeah, I read it. No, but I just think it was a good opening scene.
It was a good
It grabbed me. And then you meet our male lead, do we call him Jeremy? Jeremy is Verity's husband. So Jeremy is essentially coming to the same meeting that Lowen is going to, and he's essentially telling her with Verity's current publishers saying, we need you to finish the last 3 books of her series.
Yeah. So kind of when Lowen goes to this meeting, she thinks it's just kind of about her books and like the publisher, but actually like it's a meeting where she's being asked to finish this very popular series that Verity has authored, and she's just told that Verity had an accident, and that kind of they will be co-authors.
Yes.
But they don't really tell her exactly what happened to Verity, the extent of it. But like even prior to that, like Jeremy and Lowen, they both see this guy die, and then she's kind of covered in blood, so he takes her to like this
random bathroom,
like a bathroom in like a cafe nearby, gives her his shirt, and they kind of have this like bonding moment, and they kind of connect, and they both like recognize something in each other instantly, and they basically are like, you're giving tragic, I'm giving tragic. What? And they basically share trauma stories.
They do, definitely.
So you know up front that Jeremy has lost his daughter. So I think that's when he's like, 5 months ago I dragged my daughter's body out of I forgot about that out of the lake. And then Lowen shares that like, oh, like I lost my mother a week ago. So she walks into this room and then sees him, and like it's already giving kind of fate, and you know, and you get that vibe from her immediately. There's this like instant connection and instant draw she feels to him. So then finding out that like, oh, this guy is married and he's here with like a job offer, for me, I was like, oh, how is this going to be a romance?
Yeah.
Because like I said, I went into this book thinking I'm going to read a romance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, he's married, I don't get it. And she drip feeds you information. Definitely. So you don't know up front, like, how unwell Verity is. But yeah, like, I agree. It was a really strong opener for me. I do think, like, the story got stronger as it went.
As it went on.
So, like, to me, the final third was great. That had me locked in.
I think definitely the suspense continued throughout, and it got more and more and more and more. And the final chapter for me, I was like, whew.
What is going on?
What is going on? Yeah. But essentially, after she accepts the job, essentially the job involves her going to their house, so Jeremy and Verity's house, and then she has to go through Verity's office and essentially look through her notes and try and complete her series. So Verity's books are very popular because they're considered quite dark. She does a bunch of mysteries and whatnot from the villain's point of view. So very heavy. People enjoy her work, but it means that she has to get into a particular mind space. And you see Jeremy mention that he really loved her first book, but didn't read any of her other books because he was like, I don't know how I felt like about what was going on in her mind, essentially. Yeah.
So yeah, she goes, and initially she goes just to kind of pick up some diaries, do a bit of reading, but when she arrives, she realizes, oh, she actually has to like get to grips with everything about this woman, because it just having to write like someone, like you need to know them on like quite a deep level, and the way they write, the way they think, and also like even I'll say as an editor, I was thinking to myself, this is an impossible job because
it's very hard to do.
It's so difficult to, especially someone that's already been writing. Ghostwriters obviously exist, keeping the world
100%.
the publishing world turning. But like, yeah, like someone that's already been writing and to try and start to write like them, it's like a big challenge. So when she gets there, she realizes, oh, she needs a lot more time with these journals and these diaries, and Jeremy is very quick to offer that she should stay
in my house longer. Initially, what was supposed to be 2 days ended up being 3 weeks by the end of it.
They were she was there for a while.
She was there for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And essentially she finds what is supposed to be Verity's autobiography, and she starts reading about Verity and how her and Jeremy fell in love and all the things that come with it. And you start to notice straight away in the autobiography that Verity wrote and that Lowen is reading, that Verity is not all the way there mentally, in that she is incredibly insecure. She's psychopathic. She cares about what she cares about.
Insecure.
I would say she's insecure because I think a lot of what she did stems from the fact that she didn't feel secure in her love with Jeremy. Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jiminy.
I hear that, and I would say, like, if it was a different character or a different person written in a different way, I would 100% be like, this is intense insecurities. It was just psychopathic behavior, and like the exception to her feelings and like her general apathy. And because like it's not just she's quite like unemotional about everything but Jeremy.
Yes, but I always feel like, because she constantly harks back to, essentially, you know, they go about their life story, they go about when she first got pregnant and whatnot, and there is this scene where she asks him, would you love these children more than you love me? And he goes, obviously. And she did not like that answer, and that's when things started to go downhill. So that's why I felt like there was a kernel of insecurity. I feel like the love that she had for Jeremy kept her sane, and that when she felt like it wasn't love in the way that she felt love, and that her love was very obsessive, it made her feel insecure and then want to get rid of the things that took Jeremy's love away from her.
I hear that. It's defo there. I just don't know that it's the driving force, because it's not just insecurity. She's actively like, okay, let's go in chronological order, because also huge spoiler alerts. Because also, by the time like Lowen has started reading the autobiography, we also know more about Verity's condition, which is Verity and Jeremy had lost 2 of their 3 children. So they had twin daughters and then a son called Crew. And their daughters, I know, horrible names.
It was Chastin, Harper, and Crew. I was like, Lord.
Very American names.
Very American.
So Chastin died, I think, like, was it like around a year ago or like 2? Chastin died first, and she died from anaphylaxis due to a peanut allergy. And then Harper died drowning in like a lake at the bottom of their house, I think. And Harper had only died like 5 to 6 months before. So then when the book starts, Verity is recovering from a car accident, and you don't know whether she did it on purpose, though it's heavily implied.
It's heavily implied,
it's heavily implied that she did it on purpose as an attempted suicide. She survives, but she is essentially, I don't know what the PC term is, but because she's not paralyzed, but she's not like, I think is it like TBI, like traumatic brain injury?
Because they said
she can't really speak.
She can't speak, she can't move, and her brain is very much back at her very young adolescent
like
self.
She's incontinent. She needs to be changed. But yeah, so she's not able to really do any of the things that she could do, but she isn't technically paralyzed. So that's what we know about Verity. And then Lowen starts to read the manuscript or the autobiography, and you're starting to think, okay, like Verity was not a well woman. She was very obsessed with Jeremy. It's actually quite sweet the way they got together, I thought, personally.
Yes.
Yeah, I read, because when she first starts the manuscript, I'm like, oh, cute, like, because you know when he does the whole thing where he's like steals them away into like into the limousine that isn't his. It's quite a fun like start to their romance, but let me tell you, the fun ends quickly.
The fun ends
because, like you said, like once she finds out she's pregnant, initially she really loves being pregnant because of all the attention that Jeremy gives her, and like how much more doting he is now that she's kind of pregnant with their kids, but she has actually no feelings about the child itself beyond it being a vehicle for Jeremy's love, but like she's quite neutral about it until they have that conversation where she's like, oh, but would you love them more than me? And he's like, yeah, of course, like, you know, we like I'm sure you love them more than me too, and that's fine, like that's our love will change, and like being a parent. So you see, I mean, I'll give Jeremy one thing, he was a great dad. He loved those kids.
He loved his kids a lot.
But yeah, she could not compete with that. So like from that moment on forward, she's intensely like jealous. And like I found the descriptions where, so she tries to induce miscarriages. I found those descriptions so harrowing, like 100%. So harrowing.
I think because it was said in such a blunt and apathetic manner, it was a bit jarring, because you would expect emotion around what she's described, and mine, she gets into quite vivid detail, and I was a bit like, oh.
Yeah, no, it was horrible. And like as you're reading the autobiography, and as Lowen's reading, you know, she's thinking, and I, the reader, I'm thinking, how in the heck did Jeremy marry this woman? Like, do you not see the signs of sociopath?
No, but then sociopathy or sociopaths, sorry, I'm butchering this, they find it quite easy to manipulate others, and that they show them what they want to see.
Yeah, but it was dark being inside her head.
It was dark. And then essentially mine, after she does this whole inducing or trying to induce of a miscarriage, it fails. She ends up having the twins. One of the daughters has a scar on her face, Chastin. Yeah. And that scar was supposedly from when she tried to...
What was it? Use a wire hanger?
Yeah. Oh. I don't know.
Makes me want to itch. I didn't like it.
The doctors had told them essentially that it could have been a scratch inside the womb,
like
or
some
the
kind
kids
of
could have
scar
scratched
tissue
each other.
or yes. But she, like when you're reading the autobiography, she knows like what she did.
What she did, essentially. And then essentially she has the kids. She doesn't want to deal with them. She's not interested in them. She feels nothing towards these two girls, other than she feels like they're taking everything from her. She talks about... There were parts when I was reading that where I was like, this is very much giving postpartum depression, and this idea that these, not to say, you know, obviously any of this is valid, but she felt like the children were feeding off her and taking away something from her, because she talks about how they would destroy my body, they would destroy this, they would do this, and they're going to take this and take that, and it was very much giving like, I'm in the mind of someone who's going through postpartum depression. So she feels nothing for these kids until she has a dream about Harper essentially smothering Chastin, and she said she felt fear and love, and she felt that she would really regret if Chastin died. So she starts to say, oh, I can love Chastin, but Harper's going to take Chastin away from me, and I'm going to give all my love that I have for the short period of time I'm going to have with Chastin.
Yeah, it was like so strange. It's very like, she takes it as, she has that dream and takes it as basically gospel, that it is a prophecy, a premonition, and like it kind of shapes her whole attitude towards Harper and the way that she raises Harper and treats her. So that's kind of the B plot almost of what's going on. Back at the house. Back at the house, Lowen and Jeremy are making eyes at each other, in the house. Because bearing in mind, Verity's become very successful. So she's like, they're very wealthy. They have this house out, I think it's...
Vermont,
right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I Googled. Looks expensive. I think that's where Joe Biden's from. Side note.
I don't think that's an endorsement, but go on.
No, but it's giving money.
It is giving money.
Yeah, so she's bought them this house. She's being cared for in like upstairs. Lowen is like settled in. She's part of the fam. Her and Jeremy are exchanging longing glances. I don't even know what they are falling for each other over.
Do you know what bit I found incredibly strange? Or maybe because I'm a hater, I don't know. But she went straight into trying to replace Verity in that she was cooking food for him. She's just like, oh my God, Jeremy.
And it's constantly, I feel so bad for Jeremy. Jeremy's in such a bad...
Who cares about Jeremy? Go care about yourself.
Listen, I understand. Jeremy, he isn't bro. He's lost 2 of his children. His wife then, everyone thinks is tried to commit suicide. He's gone through a horrible time. Fair. Guess who else is going through a horrible time? Verity. Yeah? At least Jeremy has got all his faculties. At least Jeremy can, still live a full life. Like, he could, if he wants to, have more kids, have another relationship. He's still got his son to look after. And I fully understand that all of those things, especially like his son, is still not a burden, but a weight and a responsibility for him when he probably just wants to kind of let grief overcome him. But, Verity is in a worse position. Yeah. But literally, Lowen never occurs to her. She never thinks about Verity.
No, but she's reading the manuscript, and in her head, she's thinking, "This chick is crazy."
Yeah, and she always hated those kids. Yeah,
of my empathy.
Yeah, that is true. And when you get to a certain point, like me early on, once we started reading Verity's autobiography, I was thinking she killed those children up until 100%. She said that Chasten. Like, she started to feel this sudden love for Chasten after the premonition. And then I was like, okay, maybe she didn't kill Chasten.
I felt like from when she said, there was a scene towards the earlier part of the book where she was just like, oh, and everything was great until it was not. I read that and I was like, she killed them.
Yeah, agree.
She killed them kids.
I thought she killed both of them. Then when it was looking like she didn't kill Chasten, I thought, okay, then she's probably the big twist is going to be that she didn't kill either of them.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. From early on, I was thinking Jeremy killed them.
Did you?
I thought Jeremy killed them. There was something so sinister about Jeremy to me. And even by the end, I'm like, because you kind of, we'll talk about what happens at the end, but you do still have the feeling that Jeremy ultimately is a good guy. But that's not the feeling I was left with.
Of him?
Yeah.
Because in Verity's manuscript and also in the scenes with Lowen, he essentially very much encourages Verity in the beginning when he read her initial manuscript, and he says something along the lines of, "You're really good, I'm proud of you, yada yada yada." And then he turns around and says the same thing to Lowen. So I felt like he was quite manipulative and cared about his and what he wanted. I didn't think he'd killed his kids, but I did think he probably drove his wife crazy. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. There was it was the way he was trying to get like both Lowen and Jeremy want her to replace Verity.
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
She wants to step into his life and be his, like, be in a relationship with him and look after Crew. Like, even the moments where she's like worried about Crew and none of it all feels like in service of Jeremy. Not because she actually has bonded with this child and really kind of feels for him and is connected with him, but it's like it's Jeremy's child, so she loves him because it's Jeremy's child.
Not even that. It's like, oh, and Verity's this horrible person, because there's this scene where she also talks about how she has a dream that Crew becomes this evil person and it's his mother's influence, so she must take him away from
his mother's
yada
child,
yada yada.
kind of
I was like, you sound like, to be blunt, she sounds like a big pick-me-sha. And there was literally, like, I had no other words for it.
Everyone was unwell.
Everybody is not okay. I'm like, every turn.
There is a diagnosis here for all 3 individuals. In fact, Crew as well. All 4 of them. All 4 of them could be diagnosed with something. So that's happening. Then we have this fun little, here's where the suspense like really kicks in, yeah? As Lowen and Jeremy are, getting a bit closer, having their flirt, Lowen starts to notice Verity might not be as unwell as everyone thinks.
Yeah.
So it's like she hears like light footsteps at night that don't sound like, can't be Crew and it can't be Jeremy. She notices Verity looking at her. So the whole thing is that Verity like is supposedly unaware of like her surroundings and people, and she can't track people with her eyes. But one day when Lowen is in the room with her, Verity makes direct eye contact with her, and when Lowen moves, Verity tracks her movements. So that creeps Lowen out.
Yeah.
It creeped me out.
Yeah.
I literally, that's, to me, out of everything, that was the most suspenseful thing going on, was when is Verity gonna stop pretending like she's not unwell? Like she's unwell, sorry.
That she is unwell.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that suspense part. I think this is when you kind of pointed out to me that was very much giving Jane Eyre.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone, I'm an English lit student, so Wide Sargasso Sea is this book by, I don't know if it's pronounced Jean or Jean or whatever, but Jean Rees. And it basically is like a post-colonial I don't know, what's it called? Like, it's not an adaptation, reimagination, but it's like, it starts before Jane Eyre. It basically is about, is it Antoinette?
I think that was her name, yeah.
Rochester's wife.
First wife.
Yeah, Rochester's first wife, who he married when he was back in the Caribbean. So it's her story, basically, when she's in the Caribbean, how she met Rochester, marrying him, and how she basically became the crazy woman in the attic. But yeah, like, as I was reading this, there were so many times where I was just thinking, this is the woman in the attic. Like, she's genuinely, she's not kept in an attic, Verity, but she is kept upstairs.
She's kept upstairs. He's an older gentleman.
She has I was about to call it a nanny. She has a carer, a nurse that looks after her. The same way...
was it Alice?
Yeah, I can't remember what the name was, but one of the servants in Rochester's house used to look after his first wife. And, like, hearing creaking in the night. The only thing that didn't happen was that she didn't set the house on fire.
Yeah, she didn't set the house up. But there was like a scene which was similar to her jumping off the roof, and that was more with Lowen, because Lowen sleepwalks, and she talks about this traumatic incident she had when she was like 10 or something, because she's standing on a railing for an hour and then swan dives off of it.
Yeah.
It was like, when you pointed that out to me, because I'd read it in 2 sittings, and when you pointed it out to me, I was like, this is Jane Eyre. Yeah. This is, in fact, Jane Eyre.
But unfortunately, in Jane Eyre, I was rooting for Rochester and Jane in the end. I was... Jeremy and Lowen, they haven't got fans in me.
I think they deserve each other. I would say that. They deserve each other.
Yeah.
Like, don't be putting your craziness out to the rest of the world, please.
Yeah, you know what? Keep that contained between the two of you.
Keep it internal.
Yeah, it's a love story, not a romance. Like, you watch them fall in love with each other because they're both tapped individuals.
Yeah.
But I just think, like, even Lowen, and one of the things I wish we got into more was you get these like hints of like Lowen's difficult kind of upbringing, how like her mother was scared of her for sleepwalking, which I didn't find that the most believable thing. I'll be real with you.
I think it was more, obviously the mother was scared of her because she stood on a railing for an hour without a foot. I would genuinely think my child is possessed, and I would be like, I guess we're going to talk on outside because we can't keep this in the house. Fair. What do you mean you're on a thin railing for 1 hour? You don't. But isn't that the whole thing with like sleepwalking? The person is unconscious. They don't know. It's not that they're unconscious. Yeah. She stood there without moving on a thin railing. And she stood like standing
it is giving
straight.
Something that would be
very
in the
crazy. It is something. The Conjuring or The Exorcist. It doesn't look natural. So I understood why her mother had a bit of fear, but also doesn't mean that you should oust your child.
100%. But I feel like we didn't get enough of a sense of like, because Lowen talks about how she's a bit of a loner and she's this, but like it doesn't feel fully fleshed out, because I feel like those things would really help explain the choices that she makes.
I think
and the
that
reason
does
she's
explain
so drawn.
Her choices.
Like, I think it does, but not enough. Like, it does because we're connecting the dots, but I'm saying there wasn't enough. Like, I would have liked to have seen more, because there are so many times, especially the first half, right, where I'm just thinking, what is she doing and why is she doing this for?
Yeah, because she keeps saying, I need to leave this house,
Yeah.
I need to leave this house.
And then she doesn't
go. She
go.
continues to stay.
You're like, bro, I would have been out that house the second Verity made eye contact with me and held my gaze. I'd have been like, yeah.
For me, the moment I picked up that manuscript, I was
here.
like, these people are crazy. I must leave soon.
Yeah. But at least the manuscript, it takes a minute before it really heats up.
Yeah.
And you get into the dark stuff. At least the first like few chapters that she reads. But like, yeah, there was creepy shit. Even, I'm so sorry, I would not have got... When she got into the bathroom with that guy, because in the very first, when they first met, and he takes her to the bathroom so that she can change, he locks the bathroom with him in it.
No, but he says that he gives her a valid explanation. He says, I would think you wouldn't want someone walking in on you.
He doesn't actually say that. She says it.
Yeah.
She says that she's grateful because someone knocks on the door.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, actually,
okay.
I'm glad that he's here. But he never actually says anything about why he's like, sorry?
No, but one thing you should know about Lowen, and from the very beginning, and the thing that informs all of her decision, is that she clearly fancies the knickers of this man. She is obsessed.
Fancies the knickers is hilarious. The idea of a man wearing knickers is too funny. But yeah, she fancies...
She loves him. She's obsessed with him.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, close to the obsession that Verity felt.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking she was talking about, Verity was so obsessed with him. And I was like, babes.
Yes.
You was the same. You is the same.
And I wonder if, obviously, like, I don't know why the author called it Verity, but I wonder if part of the... Because you obviously, when you think a book is named after someone, you think this is going to be our main character. Like, I thought Lowen was going to be the Verity. But, like, I wonder if it's because, like, she basically becomes Verity.
She does.
She, like, has Verity's relationship. She, you know...
She takes over her life.
She takes over her
life.
She takes over her writing, her career. She steps into this whole woman's life. And it's like, well, you might as well be Verity. Because you think the same way.
That's
you
why
like
she's
you're
Verity.
both obsessed with this guy.
Yeah.
You both think the other one is trying to steal him from you. This is all just like a lesson in why you should not let a man be the center of your world.
You cannot.
Yeah.
But we step into the next part. So as the autobiography goes on, you find out that Chasten died from the peanut allergy while they were away. The two girls were away on a sleepover with someone who they've gone to before and who is aware of Chasten's allergy.
Yeah.
So Harper, who is the other daughter, says that they went down for snacks. They didn't check what was in the snacks.
It was late at night.
Yeah,
they couldn't see properly.
She was unwell.
Yeah.
She was
dead.
unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
But they kept saying she wouldn't wake up, so they're not very clear in the beginning. But Verity believes, or Verity's autobiography, she believes that Harper killed Chasten, and she thinks, oh, Harper is this mastermind and has been able to hide how she murdered her sister in this way, and yada yada yada. What's mentioned earlier is that Harper is on the spectrum, so she has Asperger's, so mum can't already connect with her well.
Is Asperger's? Sorry. Side note: is Asperger's still a diagnosis, or is it now part of the autism spectrum?
It is a diagnosis, but it's part of the autism spectrum. Is the way I understood it, but I could be wrong.
There is.
So already there's a communication issue. Jeremy is the one who feels closer to Harper and feels that he can understand her, where Verity very much feels disconnected from Harper.
But she uses the Asperger's as an excuse as to why she feels disconnected from Harper, to hide the fact that, because Jeremy clocks, like, when they're quite young, he's like, you only ever talk about Chasten, you only kind of laud Chasten's achievements, and like, you treat Harper like that the girls are gonna know you're treating them differently, and she uses the excuse of, you know, Harper's different and she requires a different kind of parenting and la-di-da-di-da, when actually it's because she thinks Harper's a murderer to be.
She thinks she's evil. She thinks it's, and then this is the thing where I feel like Lowen feels synergy, is that the way, with herself and Harper, because in the same way her mother was scared of her, Verity felt that Harper was evil and something to, you know, push away and stay away. So at this point, Chasten has passed away, and she does not like Harper, but she has to pretend. And then you see this scene in her head where she's just like, I just don't get why Jeremy's not over Chasten dying. Like, I don't get it. Because you see Jeremy's grief in her autobiography, in her manuscript.
Yeah.
But she's very much like...
she experiences grief losing Chasten, but like, which was more than I thought she was capable of, honestly, reading that autobiography. But like, she's like, yeah, why isn't he getting over this quickly?
But also she does mention that she had that premonition that Harper was going to kill Chasten.
She spent Chasten's whole life knowing that Chasten was going to die, so she made every moment kind of count with her, is the vibe.
Is what she says. So as we go on in the manuscript, we find that she's now harbouring thoughts of she needs to get Harper for what she did to Chasten. Like, she took Chasten away from me. I have to get her. And she essentially starts plotting to kill Harper. So that's like the main thing. So it happens essentially when they're outside. Harper wants to go onto a boat, onto the lake that is near their home.
They've got a canoe.
Yeah, they've got a canoe. She goes, we're going to get on this canoe. Me, Verity, Crew, and Harper. They get onto the canoe, and she holds Crew's mouth and tells him to hold his breath and flips the boat. Harper, of course, can't swim, which I think is crazy. Like, this is... pause, completely random, but it reminds me of, you know, in the UK, swimming is a life skill, and it's something that you automatically start learning to do as soon as you hit year 3, which is, what's year 3? That's like 6, 7, 8, like 8. You start learning, and every child has to learn, bar obviously if you have issues. So I find it strange that a child that age doesn't know how to swim.
I was like, I because also lake is like still water. It's not like it's a river.
It's not a river. It's not rushing. It's still
water. She doesn't know how to swim. And Verity like basically kind of stages it so it looks like she could only save one of the kids. So she like grabbed Crew, gets him out. Crew like calls dad. I don't know if the lake like goes into public land, because do you remember like she says people came to try and help her because she starts screaming that like you know, my daughter, my baby, da da da. So she makes it look like, you know, she's trying to find Harper. Yeah. But, you know, Harper ends up drowning. They eventually find her body and kind of, I think she was caught in some kind of net or something. She was caught in a
fishing net that Jeremy had lost. And apparently they say if she had not caught in that fishing net, she would have been able to get up. So there's also a lot of guilt mounted on Jeremy for that. And he's the one who essentially pulls her out of the lake and attempts CPR on his daughter before he has to give up. Yeah. So another traumatic thing that happens for Jeremy.
And at that moment is when Verity realizes she's messed up. Yeah. Because where she thought, I don't know why she thought, but where she thought that maybe losing Harper could help Jeremy, it obviously makes things 10 times worse. Yeah. And his grief, like, he is inconsolable.
Yeah. So it was tough. And then at this point, on the main story or outside of the manuscript, Lowen and Jeremy have their first intimate relations at this point, and she sees Harper essentially standing in front of her. She's
Verity. I was like,
Harper
is dead.
Harper is a child as well.
Harper is a child. Harper is dead. Yes.
She sees Verity.
Her and Jeremy, you know, getting their good time on. And she sees Verity standing at the door. And then she like screams. Verity runs off. Jeremy doesn't see any of it. So then you get these kind of back and forths and these moments where Lowen is trying to tell Jeremy, like, Verity is okay. She is up. She's pretending. And also, you get these little moments where Crew slips up and says, like, oh, Mum says, and like talks about Verity talking to him in the present, but then he always kind of bottles up when Lowen tries to like press forward. So you're getting all these things that, like, you as the reader are now convinced Verity is alive and well. She is up and about. She is pretending. And I'm thinking she's pretending because she is plotting on Lowen. I thought at this point, now my new theory is Verity is going to kill Lowen.
Because do you know what I thought she was doing? I thought she was essentially pretending to be unwell so that she would wait through Jeremy's grief. He would be bound to her, and then she would miraculously recover once he's kind of over his grief, and they can go back to the life that she had. That's the way I read it when I was reading it, rather than she's trying to kill Verity.
I didn't have an idea for why she was pretending to be unwell, but when Lowen arrived, and you find out that like, oh, Verity can get up, is all Gucci, I was like, she's going to kill the woman that was talking about her kids in that autobiography in that way. The woman that killed her own daughter. Lowen that just arrived.
And she's taking your man.
She's taking
she killed
the man that we know
she's
obsessed with. No, I thought Lowen was gonna die that day.
Damn, that's crazy.
That day, but she doesn't. She survives. But yeah, you get more and more of these moments, and each time, like, Verity manages to make it back, or like pretend, basically kind of cover herself, so that Jeremy never actually sees it himself. And that becomes like a point of contention between Jeremy and Lowen. And Jeremy puts it down to Lowen's kind of trauma and paranoia from like sleepwalking, and because like Lowen asks him to put like a lock in her bedroom and all those kinds of things. So he's like, look, I know that your experience with like sleepwalking and like has made you paranoid, but there's no way Verity is okay. She is unwell.
But he essentially also agrees to put a lock on Verity's door as well. So I think a few like minor background stuff happens, and then there's the scene where Crew cuts his lip with a butter knife after she asks him a question about Verity, and he says, I'm going to go take him to the doctors, to the hospital, whatever, to go get stitches on his lip. She's in the house alone. April is not there. So she's like, I'm going to catch her moving around. So she goes obviously down into the basement, and she gets the old baby monitors they had for their children, and she puts one in Verity's room and goes downstairs, and she has her phone ready because she wants to catch
her in the act
of moving. She doesn't quite catch her, but she does see her moving. So she sees her move, and she sees her reaching for something on the floor, and then she runs upstairs. At this point, Jeremy and Crew are back. She's running upstairs. She's like, she's there, she's hiding, she's lying, yada yada. She's losing it at this point, and she's acting crazy. Jeremy's looking at her like she's crazy. Why are you doing all of this nonsense? Yada yada yada. She goes, at this point, you must read the manuscript, because this chick is crazy and he needs to know how crazy she is. So she pulls out the manuscripts, gives it to him so he can read it. And he, of course, has an absolute breakdown, because he finds out in this manuscript that his wife killed his child. So then you get the scene where they go up to her room. So Verity, not Verity.
Well, he goes up first. Remember, he goes up there and goes to confront her. And is like, because at this point he's still, even when the baby monitor showed that Verity was moving, by the time Lowen got to Jeremy, Verity was back to pretending, because she heard Lowen screaming and had clocked like, oh, she's trying to alert Jeremy. So by the time Jeremy goes to see it, like, Verity is as she should be,
back in her bed.
So he's like to Lowen, I don't know what's going on here, you need to wrap this up, that woman is unwell. And that's when, like you say, he reads the manuscript. He goes up there because it could be that this is true, but Verity is still unwell and still can't do the things that Lowen is claiming. So he goes up there. Verity doesn't move, doesn't budge. He goes to walk away, and then actually stops, turns around, and then says, if you don't respond, I'm gonna report you to the police. I'm gonna take this to the police, la-di-da-di-da, and use that to see if that will make her respond. And lo and behold,
she gets up. She's up, and she's like, Jeremy, you don't understand why I did this. I can explain. Obviously not in that tone. But, she goes into it, and then this is when it gets quite violent as the reader's point of view, because obviously he loses his and he's like, I'm going to strangle this woman. So he's got his hands around her throat, ready to
in rage. He is strangling her, cutting off her oxygen, blood supply, all that.
So then Lowen mentions there was a scene earlier in the manuscript where, back when she had her idea that Harper was going to kill Chaston, she tried to kill Harper as a baby by making her
Asphyxiate
on her own vomit. So she's like, no, you've got to make it look like an accident. You've got to make it. So essentially they work together to murder this woman. That's what happens.
And obviously we're in Lowen's head, so her whole justification is, you know, she did kill one of her daughters. She tried to kill them both several times. Like this one, because Lowen has spent weeks reading the autobiography, she knows the way Verity thinks. She's like, this woman is utter evil.
Yeah.
Like, I'm freeing Jeremy by doing this.
I'm freeing Jeremy, and she's obviously still obsessed with Jeremy at this point. So after they've done the deed and they've told people she asphyxiated on her own vomit, you get a time jump of 7 months. Look, obviously, on the side, them two have been doing the thing, and she is now currently preggers. So they're selling the house. They're thinking they're going to put this chapter behind them. They're selling the house. Her crew and Jeremy are together, and she's pregnant with a baby. Crew goes upstairs and says, oh, I need to go get something from Mummy's secret hiding place. And she remembers that when she was watching her on the baby monitor, that she was searching through the floor. And then obviously there was a scene earlier where Crew had cut himself with a knife, but they couldn't find the knife.
I'm gonna lose.
A few moments later.
Slight coughing break. We are back. We are back.
My bad, guys. I've got a cold.
So essentially she goes up to find the little hiding place that Crew says, oh, Mummy's hiding place. And in it, she finds a letter to Jeremy. And in this is where you get the ultimate twist, in which Verity says, I wrote that autobiography as a way to process these characters that I had to write that were quite villainous and evil, and I had to create a version of myself that was not me.
Yeah. So her editor
gave her a
suggested it to her.
Yeah.
So it's this tool. I can't remember what the phrase is, but it's this tool to help authors get into the heads of evil characters and villains. And it's essentially they have to write their own story and their life story as if they are a villain.
Yeah.
So that's why Verity starts writing the autobiography, because that's the other thing. It's why was Verity writing the autobiography in the first place?
Exactly.
She starts it as that kind of as a literary tool. And then what happens is that as she's experiencing things in her own life, she says in the letter, she uses it to help
process
trauma, it,
essentially.
So she talks about kind of how, the things that I wrote about Harper, of course I loved her just as much as I loved Chasten. I can't believe that you would ever believe these things about me.
Yeah.
And that I could do this and da-da-da-da-da. So it's basically, the letters reveal that Verity, the autobiography is entirely fake.
Yeah.
It's entirely fake. And it reveals that Jeremy had actually come across the autobiography
beforehand. And
so before Lowen,
her accident.
Yeah. So before Lowen ever arrived, after Harper's death, he finds the autobiography, and kind of the same way that he's enraged in the main body of the book, was enraged, thinks she's killed his daughter, and he stages her death. So that's the car accident, but obviously she doesn't die. So I think actually, did he stage? He tried. I think he strangled her, knocked her out.
Strangled her, knocked her out. Drove the car with her in the passenger seat and her tied up without a seatbelt. Yeah. And then after she had accident, he took everything off and placed her in the driver's seat. Yeah. So that's how it was implied that he staged.
Yeah. But accident. She survived, and then is supposedly left kind of with this traumatic brain injury, and he's he is fundamental, he is looking after her. So it shows a level of guilt on his part, and that kind of, it was a crime of passion, as they say.
Yeah.
But so she's written the letter that, I think it's that day that Lowen catches her, right? It's because she's hiding the letter away. She's written the letter because she plans to steal Crew away. She plans to leave with Crew because she knows that, if he takes the autobiography to the police, it's going to look like she did kill her child, and there's no proof otherwise. So she kind of says that, you know, I told Crew to hold his breath as we were going over, not before.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't it's not something I planned out. So it's basically turns into a game of he said, she said.
Yeah.
Right? There's not enough evidence on her side that she didn't kill her daughter, and she knows that, which is why she doesn't want to, she's not going to the police herself about the fact that Jeremy tried to kill her. So she just wants, and ultimately she still loves Jeremy.
Yeah.
She still loves Jeremy. She's like, you were a wonderful father, you were a wonderful husband, you know. I think there's literally a line where she's like, I just don't think we can make it back from, you know, a murder attempt. I'm like, real?
Do you know
Very
what
true.
was and then what was it? There was something in there that so there was a point when obviously Lowen's been hanging about in the house for ages because her advance hadn't hit, and you find out that she was essentially moving the money into her own personal account because she was getting ready to leave him. And at the start of the letter she goes, this is a letter for Jeremy. If you're not the one reading it, I hope this letter finds its way to you. And then obviously Lowen reads this thing. She starts thinking to herself, if we killed an innocent woman, it would completely break him. And at this point they're healing mind, like she's pregnant, they're moving
He's
on
excited
with their
about
life.
the new child.
So she rips up that letter and flushes it down the toilet and says, Verity was a manipulative woman, I just don't know which story was real.
Yeah, which begs the question, which story was real? What do you believe?
I believe that there was elements of truth in both. In that I believe that the autobiography and the way that she felt like she killed Harper to whatever, get back at to what's the word?
It's vengeance?
Yeah. For Chastin. I think it was an accident, but it was an accident that she was happy happened, if that makes sense. But she then she feels guilty about feeling happy that this happened, because I do think she was neglectful towards Harper. And I do think that's not the kind of thing that you can fake. And I do think Jeremy had to have felt that she didn't particularly like Harper to be able to believe this when he initially read it.
Yeah.
So I do believe there was an element of favoritism, and there was that postpartum depression, because again, like I said, I did feel like she was going through postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And that she only felt love for Chastin and not for Harper, and she blamed Harper. And then when that accident happened, she was happy it happened. And because she was happy it happened, she was trying to work through this guilt by saying that she intended to do it. I do think, however, that she was planning to hurt him with that letter, if that makes sense. It was a final F you, if that makes, to make sure he never got over it. So I think there was elements of truth in both, but I do think ultimately the autobiography was closer to the truth than she was comfortable to admit.
I hear that. I agree. I think there are definitely elements of truth in the autobiography. I think like kind of her obsessive love with Jeremy is pretty accurate. She even says so in the letter. I agree that kind of her motherly instincts or her experience of motherhood was something that she exaggerated in the autobiography, but it was coming from a place of truth. Ultimately, when it comes down to whether or not she plotted to kill the children, I think she was innocent.
Do you know where I disagree?
Yeah, why?
The scar on the face of Chastin makes me think she did initially attempt to abort them. I do think that.
But then again, like the doctor said, could be scratches, could be scar tissue, could be... People are born with scars. Very
rarely, though.
But it happens. And it can happen to twins in particular. But me, it was more... If the autobiography was that accurate to her, the way she thinks and her character, she would have done what I thought she was going to do, which was she would have killed Lowen. And she would never have left Jeremy. The whole letter is written because she's planning to run away with Crew.
Yeah.
Even though Crew is her preferred child, it's the only one that she from the jump was okay with. And I think that's because of gender dynamics, and Crew is a boy.
Yeah.
she didn't love him enough to run away with him and keep him safe from Jeremy, which is, you know, part of her reasoning.
Yeah.
And like she did, and I hear what you're saying about she's partly written the letter to kind of as a bit of a F you to Jeremy and to hurt him, but she was way too in love with him to ever want to hurt him more than want to be with him.
Do you think
I think so. I think
because when she's writing the letter again, she does talk about how, okay, yeah, I loved you, but no one is that obsessive. So I think she felt...
But she's saying that's why you should have known the autobiography
was a lie. Yeah.
And I agree.
Oh,
I think it's got truths in it, but I actually think that the person who is closest to the Verity in the autobiography is Lowen. That is Lowen's character.
And Lowen
she's the one
that
is madly in love with Jeremy from the beginning, is obsessed with him, wants to like do everything for him. She like her, even the night that she conceives and gets pregnant, like she tries to deliberately
she
be pregnant.
actively
Like,
tries to
she
get pregnant.
tries to get pregnant by him, which is in the autobiography also what Verity does. She tries deliberately to get pregnant by him. And there was something else I was going to say, but I've lost it. But anywho, like the actual character that Verity wrote in her autobiography, actually that person is Lowen. And Verity herself, the real person, I think is further from that characterization.
I don't know.
Because I just fundamentally believe, like, otherwise, if she is the person
not that she
wrote,
is. Yeah. I think it was an exercise in that she was tapping into the meanest parts of herself. But I don't think it was, how do I put it? I don't think it was so divorced from the truth. I think it was too close to a point that it's uncomfortable. But for me, because she keeps mentioning that you should have known me better, you should have known me better. And I think if he really did do what he did in that he tried to stage her accident, he had to have believed she wrote that.
Oh, 100%.
And for me, someone
That's
I've been with
doubt,
for a long time, and you say you love and you care about her and you know this person, if I didn't think they were capable of it, I could not jump to it. Even if I had a sliver of a doubt, I would not jump to wanting to kill them.
I don't know.
So he had to have doubt.
They have 2 daughters die in the space of a year.
So you think
both are like shocking deaths. And the second in particular, you have, even at Verity's own admission, struggled more to connect with that child. Nah, I think something was up. In fact, I think you'd be a bad parent if you didn't at least consider it.
I'm not saying you couldn't consider it.
Yeah.
For me, it's that he went to trying to kill her, so he had to be a level of sure for him.
He already has that slight suspicion, and then because the things that we're not these characters, because these characters are not real people. But if these were real people and we read this stuff, I would believe that shit too.
No, I would
from jump, where like she describes like trying to force the miscarriage. I'd have been like, yeah, this person.
No, but what I would have done,
suspect number 1,
is I would have tried to figure out if it was true.
Would you have though? Like, you're the parent.
I'm so sorry. I can't.
There's experience and deep. Like he is in the midst of like insurmountable grief.
I don't disagree. He's in the midst of insurmountable grief, but I just think if you've known someone and you've loved someone for a long time and you don't think that they're a particular type of person and you find out they are. I would ask a question rather than jump into killing them. I'm so sorry. I don't think that's a wild thing to say. I would ask a question.
Don't get it twisted.
So I think for him to jump straight to killing her, there's a level of truth or level of surety, is that a word? A level of sureness in his head that this is true.
Yeah.
So that means there were other things that were showing up that made him believe that this manuscript he was reading is completely possible. And it reminds me of, because like obviously he talks about how he doesn't read the rest of her books because he doesn't like what's in her head. It reminds me of, like, obviously I'm a big believer, you know, people who write crazy-ish, you have this, something is not all the way there.
Yeah.
And like if she, obviously she mentions in the writing process she had to get herself into that headspace, but to have that kind of headspace where you can think in such what is to us quite, disgusting, and you want to throw away, you don't want to think about, like, to be able to delve into that, I think something's not all the way there. Like, great that you use your creativity
That's the plot of
for
my
this.
favorite show, Criminal Minds.
Yeah, something's not all the way there.
Into an unsub's head.
You can get into the unsub's head, but to the point where you think like them, and you would try and like put parts of yourself to fit into. I don't know if I'm saying this well enough to make sense, but to the point that you would mirror yourself in their way.
Yeah,
I think that for me it was. I
mean, one of the other things I will say that I thought was a sign for me that the autobiography wasn't an exercise and like was Verity trying to get into someone else's head, was the fact that I thought at the beginning in particular the autobiography was poorly written. Like, I was like, oh, Verity's supposed to be this like great writer, like da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, actually, it makes sense for when she started the autobiography, she would have been, it was in her earlier years.
Yeah.
And then as the story continues, as her autobiography continues, her writing gets stronger.
Yes.
And that was another thing where I was like, I thought that when I was first reading it, the first few chapters, like, oh, this isn't great writing from her. Actually, it goes to show, like, it is an exercise. And I get what you're saying, that it could still be an exercise, but she still did these things. But I don't know. I just thought it also could just be because I'm not a fan of Lowen and Jeremy, that I'm willing to believe.
I'm also not a fan of Lowen and Jeremy. I do think, though in saying that, if you had been in her situation, you found out
who do you find more unlikable, Lowen or Jeremy?
I find Jeremy more unlikable, I won't lie. And I find him unlikable because I think at the end of the day, for all of Lowen's bullshit and her crazy-ish, she constantly talks about how she would not take the first step because he's married and he's the one who forces that first step. And for me, that's why I find him slightly more unlikable, because I think if he hadn't pushed it, she would never have gone there.
No, I don't know. She would have laid it on him. She came close to kissing him.
No, but each time she pulls back and she keeps talking about...
each time she doesn't pull back.
She
just doesn't.
Pauses.
She just doesn't do it.
She gives him. She's
waiting for him to take the step,
but he could choose to not take the space.
That's barely any better to me. But me, I found Lowen so unlikable. I find Jeremy very unlikable. Well, more than unlikable, I found Jeremy sinister. So that's why I was constantly waiting to find out. So it's why I was surprised by the plot twist, and I was shocked that he actually did try and kill her. But like I thought it was within the capability of his character, because I found him strange overall. Whereas Lowen, and maybe it's the burden of like a female protagonist when you are a female reader. I'm just thinking everything you're doing is silly and dumb, and you're going to end up dead.
Valid.
That's what I thought the whole time.
Valid. Yeah. But overall, like, I think ultimately I enjoyed what I read. Would I ever read it again? Probably not.
I think I could read it again.
But when it comes out, when they do that show or film, whatever, I will be watching it, because I did enjoy what I read.
Yeah. I mean, let us know what you guys think, and like whether you think that Verity was innocent or if she did that.
I don't think she's fully guilty. Please, let's get this correct. Yeah. I just think, sometimes when you're not happy about something, but you can see it going in a way where this thing falls apart and you let it. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think she felt the tragedy was coming, in the sense with Harper.
But with Harper, because that's the crux of the whole issue. Right?
I think she took Harper out. I think, however, the tipping was accidental, but I do think she chose to save Crew. Does that make sense? Yeah. Which then takes away the intention of murder. It was more like the opportunity opened up to you and you decided to take it because there was this thing you didn't want. And that's where I think she then feels guilty.
We're not too far off each other.
Yeah, she says, I did it on purpose, because like she said, she's blaming this character of herself, or this version of herself. But I do think there was a part of her that felt separated from Harper, and that she did feel like maybe if Harper died too, we could be a 3 and it would be okay. So I think that was
tapped
a
individuals all round.
Oh yeah, all of them were crazy.
All round. I think
Everybody
that's
was
one of the
crazy.
things I enjoyed so much about it. I was like, everyone is mad.
Yeah, everyone's not
Yeah.
alright. And I like that it was short. Like it
Yeah.
was a quick read.
Oh,
It was a quick
hallelujah.
read. I think if it had been longer, I wouldn't have enjoyed it
Yeah.
as much.
It was great length.
It was a good
Great
amount of
length.
length. But I will say I enjoyed it, and it did make me think of, like, maybe I would give another Colleen Hoover book
Yeah, I would
a go,
actually
yeah.
really want to
Where
read another
before
one
I
now.
never would have read it
Yeah.
because of It Ends With Us. Did you
Yeah,
read the
someone recommend
acknowledgements?
something. Yeah, I only read like the
I thought the
first
acknowledgements
few
was so
bits,
cute.
but I didn't finish it.
Yeah, I read it because I was like, that was honestly, like, was very adorable.
Oh,
The
cutesy.
acknowledgements, funnily enough, made me like the writer more. I was like, yeah,
Oh, her.
I would read.
But yeah,
another
I would
Colleen.
read another Colleen Hoover. So send recommendations, guys. But things that are actually good, please and thank
Yeah,
you.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye.